Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today not as someone who has all the answers, but as someone who has learned through experience that every step, no matter how small, is an act of progress. Life doesn't always unfold in grand gestures. Sometimes it's in the quiet moments of choice, the small steps we take, that true transformation begins. We live in a world that often places value on outcomes, the big achievements, the grand successes. We celebrate the finish lines, but rarely do we reflect on the little, unseen steps that led us there. Those tiny moments, those small actions, may seem insignificant at the time, but they are the foundation on which everything else is built. Let's talk about the power of action. Even when it feels like it's too little, too late. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the enormity of the challenges we face. It's easy to think, what difference can I make? I'm just one person. What can I do? And yet, the world is changed by people who dared to start, who didn't wait for the perfect moment or for everything to align in a perfect way. They started with what they had. When I first began my journey, it was not with grand dreams of changing the world overnight. It was with one decision to keep going, to show up even when I wasn't sure of the next step. It was about taking small actions, whether it was showing up for myself every day, learning how to live with a new reality, or simply speaking up when I thought my voice would not matter. Every action matters, no matter how small it seems. Whether it's sending a message of kindness, standing up for what's right, or choosing to believe in yourself when the world doesn't seem to. These small actions compound and create ripples of change that we may not even see at first, but trust me, they are there. Change doesn't require grand gestures. It doesn't require waiting for the right circumstances. Change is born in the moments when we take that first step, even if it's a small one. It's in the choices we make every single day to keep pushing, to keep striving, to not give up on our dreams, no matter how out of reach they may seem. And here's the truth. The world doesn't need one person to do everything. It needs each of us to do something, to contribute our small part to the greater whole. We don't need to be superheroes to make an impact. We need to be human, showing up with all of our imperfections, but with the courage to act, to try, to move forward. I promise you this. Every little thing you do has power. Every moment you show up, no matter how small the action, is a victory, is a step towards something greater. Take action, no matter how small. It's those little steps that will build the road you walk on, and one day you'll look back and see how far you've come. Not because you waited for the perfect moment, but because you decided to act, to move forward, no matter how small the steps seemed. In this life, it's not the size of the action that matters, but the courage to take it. Small actions often carry an immense amount of potential, although their true power is often overlooked. It's easy to assume that monumental change or progress requires monumental efforts. We are constantly told to aim for big, ambitious goals, to reach for the stars, and to make a splash in the world. While these messages may seem inspiring, they can also lead to feelings of inadequacy, discouragement, and inaction. We think that unless we are accomplishing something grand or achieving something huge, our efforts are meaningless. However, the truth is quite the opposite. Small actions, when taken consistently and with purpose, can lead to some of the most profound changes in our lives and in the world around us. When you think about change, it's easy to imagine sweeping, dramatic shifts, large-scale transformations that seem to happen in an instant. You might envision a sudden breakthrough, a large donation to a cause, or a monumental achievement like starting a successful company or making a historic discovery. These types of changes tend to grab headlines, and they often become the stories we look up to and aspire toward. However, we must remember that every grand story starts with a small step, and the small steps are the ones that pave the way for something larger. Take, for example, the process of learning a new skill. When you decide to learn something new, whether it's a language, a musical instrument, or a sport, the beginning is rarely glamorous. In fact, it's often frustrating and uncomfortable. You might make mistakes, stumble through the basics, and feel like you're not progressing fast enough. The process can seem long, and it might even seem as though the effort you're putting in is insignificant. Yet the truth is that these seemingly small and mundane actions, repeating vocabulary words, practicing scales, or honing technique, are the foundation upon which your success is built. Without these small actions, you would never be able to master the skill or reach the level of proficiency you eventually desire. Another powerful example lies in the context of personal development. We often envision personal growth as a sudden, dramatic transformation. People write books, give speeches, and speak about how they overcame massive hurdles in their lives. But the path to that transformation is usually a result of countless small decisions over time. It's the choice to get up early, to take that first step toward improving yourself, and to stick with it even when progress feels slow. It's about deciding to take action, no matter how small, every single day. Over time, those small actions build on one another, and you find yourself growing in ways you never anticipated. Even in the face of adversity, small actions can lead to significant change. In difficult situations, we often feel paralyzed by the enormity of the challenge in front of us. We look at the mountain of problems and feel overwhelmed by how much needs to be done. But when we break things down into smaller, more manageable tasks, the mountain no longer seems insurmountable. One small action at a time is all it takes to begin climbing. It's the decision to tackle one problem, one step, and one moment at a time that eventually leads to overcoming the obstacle. This is a concept we often forget, especially in moments of crisis. But it is in these moments that the power of small actions is most evident. Think of a person who is going through a difficult period of emotional struggle, whether it be the loss of a loved one, a personal setback, or a period of depression. When faced with these types of challenges, the road to healing and recovery can seem impossible. However, the journey to healing doesn't happen all at once. It happens through small actions, reaching out to a friend, getting out of bed in the morning, going for a walk, or even just getting through one more hour. These small actions don't seem like much on their own, but they add up. Each one contributes to a larger healing process, and over time, the person begins to regain strength, perspective, and resilience. Similarly, small actions can have a ripple effect on those around us. You might not always realize it, but the way you show up in your own life impacts the lives of others. Sometimes the simplest act of kindness, a smile, a compliment, a gesture of support, can make someone's day. These small actions might seem insignificant in the moment, but they can change someone's mood, perspective, or even their life. Imagine how many people have made it through tough times because of a small, kind word from someone else. You may never know the extent of your impact, but these small moments matter, both for the recipient and for you. The same concept applies to larger social or environmental issues. Often we feel that as individuals, we don't have the power to make a real difference. We hear about the world's problems, poverty, climate change, social injustice, and we feel powerless to address them. But just like personal growth or learning a new skill, change in the world often starts with small actions. You don't need to be a global leader or a famous activist to make a difference. Each of us has the capacity to contribute in small ways, reducing waste, donating to a cause, speaking up for justice, or simply being kind and empathetic toward others. While these actions may not seem like much on their own, they add up. When millions of people take small actions, those actions have the power to transform society. It's essential to remember that action breeds momentum. When you start with something small, it can lead to greater things. Taking that first step, no matter how small, creates a ripple effect. It builds confidence and belief in your ability to achieve more. You begin to realize that you are capable of much more than you initially thought. The more small actions you take, the more you reinforce your ability to take bigger actions in the future. What seems like a tiny step today may become the catalyst for significant transformation tomorrow. Small actions also build resilience. In the face of setbacks or challenges, it's easy to become disheartened. But when we focus on taking small actions rather than expecting instant results, we give ourselves the space to learn and grow. Small actions allow us to test ideas, make mistakes, and adjust our approach without overwhelming us. They enable us to stay in the game for the long haul, allowing for continuous improvement. Each small success provides a sense of accomplishment and motivates us to keep moving forward. Perhaps the most profound lesson of small actions is their cumulative effect. Think of a snowball rolling down a hill. At first, it's small and insignificant, but as it continues to roll, it gathers more snow and becomes larger and more powerful. Similarly, the small actions we take every day, whether toward personal growth, social change, or our own success, accumulate over time and compound. What feels like a tiny, insignificant gesture today may have a profound impact on our future. Each small step sets the stage for greater accomplishments and eventually the ability to make the bigger changes we hope for. The beauty of small actions lies in their simplicity and their ability to create lasting change. By focusing on the small, tangible steps that we can take today, we pave the way for something much bigger. We may not see immediate results or understand the full impact of our actions in the moment, but over time, we will begin to see how each small choice, each small action contributes to the bigger picture. In a world that often values instant gratification and grand achievements, it can be difficult to recognize the importance of small actions. But it's crucial to understand that lasting change is built on the foundation of these seemingly insignificant moments. Every time we choose to take action, no matter how small, we are creating a path towards something greater. Whether we're working on ourselves, contributing to the community, or striving for a larger cause, the key to success lies in taking those small steps day after day. Change does not happen overnight. It's a process that requires patience, persistence, and a commitment to showing up, no matter how small the steps seem. By embracing the power of small actions, we can achieve remarkable things. We often find ourselves caught in the hustle and bustle of life, constantly seeking immediate results and quick fixes. Our culture is obsessed with instant gratification, and we are constantly told that success comes with speed, efficiency, and fast progress. But in reality, the journey to personal development, success, or change is often a slow, steady process. Progress doesn't always come in grand, immediate bursts. It happens incrementally through sustained effort over time. The key to understanding true progress is realizing that it's not always immediate. It is often slow and it builds over time. At the beginning of any new venture, whether it's starting a business, adopting a new habit, or setting a new goal, the excitement is palpable. You're filled with energy and determination, believing that success is just around the corner, but the reality is often far from what we initially expect. The initial excitement fades, and you may find yourself facing challenges, setbacks, or plateaus. It's at this point that many people give up or lose motivation. They don't see immediate results, and so they assume that their efforts aren't worth it. This is where many dreams die, not because the person lacked potential or ability, but because they failed to recognize the value of the slow, steady progress that was taking place. The truth is, meaningful progress often happens beneath the surface. It's easy to overlook the subtle shifts that occur over time. Think about physical fitness. When you begin a workout routine, the first few days or weeks may not show much change. You might not notice any significant improvements in strength, endurance, or appearance. But if you stick with it, you begin to see gradual improvements over time. At first, the changes are small, maybe a little more stamina, slightly better flexibility, or a slight reduction in body fat. But as you continue, these small improvements build upon one another, and eventually you find yourself achieving much greater progress than you ever thought possible. The same principle applies to other areas of life. When you learn a new skill, such as playing an instrument or mastering a language, the progress often feels slow in the beginning. You may stumble over words, make mistakes, or feel like you're not improving. But as you persist and continue practicing, those small actions accumulate. Over time, you'll notice that you're playing more fluently or that you're able to hold conversations with greater ease. It's not because you took one huge leap forward, but because you kept moving forward, even when it seemed like little progress was being made. One of the challenges we face in today's world is that we are constantly exposed to the success stories of others. Whether it's on social media, in the media, or among friends, we are surrounded by stories of instant success. We see people who have seemingly achieved greatness in a short period of time, and we may begin to feel that we should be able to do the same. We forget that these stories often gloss over the years of work, setbacks, and small steps that led to that moment of success. It's easy to look at someone's achievements and assume that their progress was immediate. But if we take a step back and look at the true journey, we'll see that success almost always comes after months or even years of steady effort and incremental improvements. In fact, when we expect immediate results, we set ourselves up for disappointment. The human mind is wired to want quick rewards. But real, sustainable progress takes time. We have to cultivate patience and trust in the process. Change is not a linear experience. It comes with its ups and downs, its periods of growth, and its moments of stagnation. But every small effort contributes to the whole. When we commit to the process and trust that even the small steps are making a difference, we empower ourselves to keep going, even when things don't seem to be moving as fast as we'd like. Sometimes it's the very nature of progress that makes it difficult to recognize. The growth we experience, whether personal, professional, or in any other aspect of life, is often not visible right away. It's easy to become discouraged when we don't see immediate changes, but this is when persistence becomes key. It's not about focusing on the grand outcome right away. It's about taking pride in the small victories, the little moments of growth, and the small actions that accumulate. By doing so, we develop resilience and an understanding that progress is not always immediate, but is always happening in some form. Progress that is not immediate is also the kind of progress that sticks. When we take the time to develop ourselves, learn new skills, or create new habits, we are building a foundation that will last. Immediate results might be satisfying in the short term, but they often lack the depth needed for long-term success. When we focus on the slow, consistent effort, we're building something more substantial, something that will endure and continue to grow. In our fast-paced world, it can be difficult to embrace the idea that progress doesn't happen right away. We are conditioned to expect quick results, but we must recognize that real, meaningful change takes time. This realization doesn't make progress any less valuable. In fact, it makes it even more meaningful. It reminds us that our efforts, no matter how small, are adding up. Even if we can't see immediate results, we are moving forward. The results are if we are growing, developing, and inching closer to our goals. When we recognize that progress is not always immediate, we also free ourselves from the pressure of perfection. Perfectionism can be paralyzing, preventing us from even starting because we feel like if we can't do something perfectly right away, we shouldn't do it at all. But by accepting that progress takes time, we give ourselves permission to start small, to make mistakes, and to learn along the way. It's in the process, not the final result, that the true growth happens. In many ways, it's the journey, not the destination, that shapes us. When we embrace the idea that progress is not immediate, we open ourselves to a deeper understanding of the work required to achieve something meaningful. We begin to appreciate the small steps, the moments of learning, the days of persistence, and the quiet victories. We start to see that these small actions are the building blocks of something much larger. And when we understand this, we are empowered to continue the journey, trusting that every small step is leading us somewhere worth going. The concept of waiting for the perfect moment is one that we all grapple with at some point. Whether it's waiting for the right circumstances, the right time, or the perfect set of conditions to begin a project or pursue a dream, many of us have fallen into the trap of thinking that everything must align perfectly before we can take action. However, this mindset often leads to inaction, missed opportunities, and feelings of frustration. The reality is that the perfect moment rarely arrives, and even if it does, waiting for it often only serves to delay progress. The truth is that action, regardless of timing, is what truly propels us forward. We tend to romanticize the idea of waiting for the perfect moment, believing that when the time is right, everything will fall into place effortlessly. This belief, however, is often rooted in fear and self-doubt. We wait for ideal conditions because we're afraid of failing or making mistakes. We tell ourselves that we need more resources, more experience, more knowledge, or more certainty before we can begin. But in doing so, we ignore the fact that growth and learning happen through action, not by waiting for things to become perfect. Consider how many opportunities we miss because we are caught in the cycle of waiting for the perfect time to start. In reality, there is no such thing as the perfect moment. Every endeavor, whether big or small, comes with uncertainty. There will always be challenges, obstacles, and unknowns. If we wait for the ideal circumstances to present themselves, we risk never starting at all. In many cases, it's the act of starting, taking that first step, that leads to momentum, learning, and eventual success. Take, for example, starting a business. Many aspiring entrepreneurs hold back from launching their ventures because they feel that they don't have everything in place. Enough capital, the perfect product, the right team, or the perfect business plan. They wait for the stars to align before taking action. But the truth is that businesses don't succeed because of a perfect start. They succeed because of persistence, adaptability, and the willingness to take risks despite the uncertainty. Many successful entrepreneurs didn't wait for everything to be ideal before starting. Instead, they began with what they had, learned along the way, and adjusted their strategies as they went. The same applies to personal goals, such as improving physical health or learning a new skill. People often hesitate to begin exercising because they feel they need the right equipment, the best fitness plan, or a specific level of fitness to start. Similarly, someone might hesitate to start learning a new language because they feel they need to be in the perfect environment or have access to the best resources. In both cases, the desire for perfection leads to procrastination. Yet, the key to success in these areas is simply starting, regardless of the conditions. The more you practice, the more you improve. The more you exercise, the stronger you become. It's the consistent effort, not the perfect setup, that leads to growth. When you start before everything is perfect, you open yourself to learning in real time. The initial steps may be messy and mistakes will inevitably happen, but these mistakes are invaluable learning experiences. Waiting for the right time often prevents us from making mistakes, and as a result, we miss out on valuable lessons that come from trial and error. These early failures provide the opportunity to refine our approach, build resilience, and adjust our mindset. The perfect moment will never allow you to make those mistakes, and without those mistakes, you will never experience the growth that is necessary for long-term success. The fear of imperfection can be paralyzing, but embracing imperfection is a crucial part of growth. The more we wait for things to be just right, the more we hold ourselves back from doing the things that matter. Perfectionism can cause us to avoid risks, avoid taking action, and avoid stepping into the unknown. However, it's in the unknown that we discover our true potential. It's in the messiness of action that we find clarity, develop new skills, and push through challenge. By embracing imperfection, we free ourselves from the burden of perfectionism and allow ourselves to move forward. Moreover, waiting for the perfect moment often results in missed opportunities. The longer we wait, the more we risk falling behind. The world is constantly changing and opportunities don't wait for us to be ready. By the time we feel that we've perfected our plan or our approach, someone else may have already taken the plunge and reaped the benefits. In today's fast-pacing world, waiting for the ideal conditions can be a significant disadvantage. The sooner we act, the more time we have to learn, grow, and refine our approach. Each action we take brings us closer to our goal, even if we're not fully prepared. In fact, action often leads to the clarity we need to move forward with confidence. The idea of waiting for the perfect time is also tied to the fear of failure. We fear that if we don't do things perfectly, we will fail. But failure is not the opposite of success. It is a part of success. Every successful person has failed at some point in their journey. The difference is that they didn't wait for perfection before starting. They embraced failure as a part of the process. Failure is not something to be feared, but something to be learned from. The more we fail, the more we grow. If we never take that first step because we're waiting for the ideal moment, we're also preventing ourselves from experiencing the growth that comes from learning through failure. By deciding to act before everything is perfect, we free ourselves from the constraints of perfectionism. Each of us, no matter who we are, has the power to make a difference. This truth, while simple, is often clouded by doubt, fear, and a lack of self-belief. We tend to look at the world's problems, large and small, and think, what can one person do? It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that only those in positions of power or with immense resources can create meaningful change. But this couldn't be further from the truth. Every small action, no matter how seemingly insignificant, holds the power to ripple out and create a much larger impact. It is the collective power of individuals, each doing their part, that creates true transformation. We often hear the phrase, small acts, big impact, yet we underestimate the power of these actions. The truth is, no action is too small to matter. Whether it's helping a friend in need, standing up for someone who can't speak for themselves, donating a small amount of money to a cause, or even something as simple as offering a kind word, these actions can snowball and create a much larger effect. It's not about what we do once in a while. It's about what we do consistently in ways big and small that counts. If we take a closer look at the social and environmental movements throughout history, we see countless examples of individuals who made a difference. Many of them were ordinary people with no extraordinary resources, but they had a strong belief in their ability to make a change. Rosa Parks, for example, didn't change the course of history by leading protests or organizing massive rallies. She made a choice to sit in a seat on a bus that she was told she wasn't allowed to sit in. That simple, small act of resistance sparked a movement that ultimately led to monumental social change. The courage of one person sparked a shift that affected millions. Similarly, movements for social justice, environmental protection, and human rights have been built on the foundation of countless small actions taken by individuals who believed in their ability to make a difference. From starting petitions to organizing local cleanup events, individuals who are willing to take small actions are often the ones who ignite the larger movements that change the world. They serve as reminders that each person's contributions matter and that no one is too insignificant to make a difference. It's easy to think that we need to be in the right place with the right resources or platform to be able to make an impact. We look at activists, leaders, or influencers and think that only people with large followings or big budgets can bring about significant change. However, when we break it down, we realize that these individuals didn't start out with immense resources. They started with a single idea or action that they took, no matter how small. Their actions multiplied, gained momentum, and eventually made a lasting difference. The truth is, we all have the capacity to create change in our own spheres of influence. Whether it's in our families, our communities, our workplaces, or even through the relationships we cultivate, we have the power to lead by example. Change doesn't always have to be on a global scale. It can be local, personal, or even private. By showing kindness to others, standing up for what is right, and showing support to those in need, we can create a ripple effect. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, inspires others to do the same. When we choose to act with integrity and compassion, we set an example that others may follow, creating a culture of positive change. Moreover, small actions lead to larger ones. Often, we dismiss the impact of one small action, thinking it will not amount to anything. But in reality, these actions can snowball. A single person's decision to start a small community garden can lead to more people joining, more communities adopting sustainable practices, and a larger movement toward environmental awareness. A small gesture, like helping a neighbor with groceries, can spark a chain reaction of goodwill that spreads through an entire community. It is this chain of small actions that builds momentum and creates widespread change. When we think about making a difference, we must recognize that our actions don't always have to be monumental. They don't have to involve a huge budget, a large group of people, or a grand plan. What matters is that we take action, no matter how small, because that action has the potential to grow into something larger. Every action, no matter how small, plays a role in the bigger picture. In addition to the immediate impact, small actions also contribute to long-term transformation. When we take action in alignment with our values, those actions accumulate and become a part of our identity. This personal change is just as important as societal change. By making small, positive choices every day, we begin to change the way we see the world and our role in it. The more we practice kindness, generosity, and compassion, the more these qualities become ingrained in who we are. And as we grow, so does our ability to make a difference in the lives of others. There is also power in the unexpected. Small acts often lead to opportunities we might never have anticipated. A seemingly insignificant conversation with a stranger can lead to a friendship or even a partnership. A small donation can spark a much larger contribution or mobilize a group of people to take action. We may not always see the direct results of our actions, but trust that they are creating waves, whether we're aware of them or not. Even the smallest act of giving, time, energy, or resources can contribute to the long-term well-being of individuals, communities, or causes. We must also acknowledge the power of persistence. While one small act may not change everything, a series of small, consistent actions over time can have a profound impact. The key is to keep showing up even when it feels like our efforts are insignificant. The most important thing is that we continue to take action, regardless of how small it may seem. Consistency builds momentum, and momentum leads to progress. In conclusion, we are all capable of making a difference. We don't have to wait for the perfect conditions, the right platform, or the most visible opportunity. We already have the power within us to create change. It's in the small acts, the consistent efforts, and the willingness to step forward that we find the greatest potential for transformation. When we believe in the power of our own actions, no matter how small, we contribute to a larger, collective movement that can change the world in ways we never imagined. We often underestimate the value of starting small, especially when faced with daunting goals or large-scale challenges. The world around us frequently emphasizes the need for grand gestures, large accomplishments, and overwhelming success. It's easy to get discouraged when we feel like we can't make a difference in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles. But the truth is, change doesn't always require massive, immediate results. In fact, the smallest steps we take can have a far-reaching impact, even if they don't seem significant at first. Each small action we take moves us forward, and each step, no matter how tiny, helps us build momentum toward a larger goal. At the core of this mindset is the idea that growth and progress are cumulative. Success doesn't happen overnight, and rarely does it come in one large leap. Instead, success is built on a foundation of consistent, small actions that compound over time. Whether we're trying to develop a new skill, build a business, improve our health, or change a habit, the process of growth is gradual. The key is persistence. Continuing to take action, no matter how small, even when it feels like we're not seeing immediate results. One of the most powerful aspects of small actions is that they lead to exponential growth. While it may seem insignificant at first, every action we take adds up. For instance, think of learning a new language. At first, it may feel overwhelming to remember even a handful of words. But over time, with consistent practice, you start recognizing patterns, expanding your vocabulary, and becoming more comfortable with the language. Each word you learn, each sentence you form, is a small step forward that, when combined, leads to fluency. The more you practice, the more confident you become, and the more progress you make. This same principle applies to nearly every aspect of life. The small, seemingly inconsequential actions we take daily have the power to create lasting change if we remain patient and consistent. Another key aspect of taking small actions is that it allows us to build confidence over time. When we take on a large goal or project, it can be overwhelming, and it's easy to get discouraged if we don't see immediate progress. But when we break that goal down into smaller, manageable tasks, we can start making measurable progress, which builds confidence. This is especially true when it comes to personal development. If we want to change a habit or adopt a new routine, it's far more effective to start with small, achievable goals. For example, rather than committing to working out for an hour every day right away, we can start with just 5 minutes of exercise per day. By doing this, we can build a habit gradually, and eventually 5 minutes becomes 10, 15, and so on. Over time, these small actions lead to lasting change. The power of small actions also extends to the ripple effect they create. When we take small, intentional actions, we often inspire others to do the same. Our actions serve as a model for those around us, encouraging them to make small changes in their own lives. Think of a simple act of kindness, like holding the door open for someone or offering a compliment. These actions may seem small in the moment, but they often inspire others to do the same. The ripple effect of these small actions can spread across communities, creating a larger culture of kindness and generosity. The same principle applies to any area of life, whether it's in our personal relationships, our workplaces, or our communities. The small steps we take can inspire others to take action as well. Moreover, small actions have the potential to lead to significant long-term outcomes. It's easy to dismiss the small, seemingly insignificant efforts we make, but they often set the stage for larger successes. For instance, when you take the time to learn a new skill or invest in self-improvement, you're not only improving yourself, but you're also preparing yourself for greater opportunities down the line. By committing to small actions every day, you are consistently working toward a future version of yourself that is more capable, more skilled, and more prepared for whatever comes your way. The smallest step today is often the key to unlocking bigger opportunities in the future. We also need to recognize that taking small actions can be more sustainable in the long run. Trying to achieve large goals in one fell swoop can be exhausting and discouraging, especially if we don't see quick results. It's much easier to maintain motivation when we focus on smaller, incremental steps. These small actions feel more manageable and less overwhelming, which increases our chances of success. This is especially important when it comes to creating lasting habits. Trying to overhaul your entire lifestyle in a short period of time is unlikely to succeed. However, by gradually implementing small changes, such as drinking more water, getting a little extra sleep, or setting aside time for self-care, you can make progress without feeling burnt out. Over time, these small habits compound, leading to a healthier, more balanced life. Taking small actions also allows us to build resilience. It's easy to become discouraged when things don't go as planned or when we don't see immediate results. But by taking consistent small steps, we learn to keep going, even when it's hard. The more we practice taking small actions, the more resilient we become in the face of challenges. We develop the ability to persevere, to adapt, and to adjust our approach when things aren't going as expected. This resilience is essential in achieving long-term success, as it allows us to keep moving forward no matter what obstacles arise.